Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the HP Autonomy WorkSite Webinar. Join Autonomy, MicroStrategies, and an IT director supporting numerous corporate legal areas at Johnson & Johnson to hear about the benefits to corporate legal departments when leveraging the WorkSite Document Management solution. We have a brief agenda for you today. Simple introduction, the welcome, topic interview. Who is MicroStrategies? Who is HP Autonomy? And then Autonomy WorkSite overview and what's new. Then we'll be moving on to Micro, a WorkSite demo. Then we'll be speaking with Frank on how various departments at Johnson & Johnson use WorkSite for their DM and the trademark, real estate, IP, and litigation departments. Then we'll wrap things up with a quick Q&A session and a summarization. And now I'd like to move on to a little bit of information about our panelists for today. And we begin with Rich Hurley. Rich is a seasoned software sales professional with a strong focus on serving customers in the financial services and legal industries. He began his career as a U.S. government bond broker on Wall Street and was responsible for opening and managing a major branch office in Tokyo. After 10 years in the financial services arena, Rick transitioned to software sales management and worked at Sybase, Progress Software, Business Objects, SAP, and HP Autonomy. Next, we move on to Scott Demore. Scott is the Director, Technology for Channels and Alliances at HP Autonomy. In this role, he provides technical enablement and guidance for all Autonomy channel partners who implement information management solutions in the legal market. Scott has been with the Autonomy team for a total of over 10 years, with deep experience in document and email management, records management, and information governance, enterprise search, and many other supporting technologies. Rich Wintle will be our next speaker today. His experience in the law firm and corporate legal environments allows him to successfully architect, implement, and maintain matter-centric document solutions on a national basis. With over 20 years of experience in the field, Rick has obtained a vast array of experiences and proficiencies derived from holding professional roles, including serving as a consulting engineer, solutions architect, sales engineer, systems engineer, network administrator, and network engineer. Our final speaker from today is Frank Sereno. As a technical lead for Johnson & Johnson, Frank supports technology for the corporate legal department. He is responsible for intellectual property systems as well as document management. He provides project management, implementation, technical, and programming support for these systems. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like us to move to our first presenters for today.
Hi, this is Richard Hurley. Thank you very much. I'm going to tell you a little bit about MicroStrategies. We are a systems integrator and began our business actually serving the legal industry. In fact, our founder, who you see leaning up against one of his race cars in the top right corner of the slide here, founded his company serving the legal industry. His father was an attorney, so we went around actually building systems for all his father's friends. So we've been at this for quite a while, over 30-plus years. And we've been we've been implementing this DMS platform in particular for over 15 years. Our engineers have done literally hundreds of WorkSite implementations and are currently managing over 50 corporate legal departments. We are a Microsoft Gold partner. We were the top business partner for IBM in 2013. We were named one of NJ Business' fastest growing companies. We have over 125 employees and 200-plus certifications. And our specialty is managing large hardware and software integrations for large and complex organizations. Next slide, please. So this is just a little bit about our growth. As you can see, we've grown 12% year over year for the last 5 years and have been growing steadily for the last 30. And we continue to grow in depth, breadth, and expertise, both from a certifications perspective as well as a strategic one. Next slide, please. We are headquartered here in northern New Jersey, in Denville, and we also have offices in Rockaway, New Jersey, as well as Malvern, Pennsylvania. So we have many customers we work with locally, but we also help companies throughout the U.S. and globally. Next slide, please. Thank you. And here are some of the solution areas where we work. So on the infrastructure side, we have a big data practice and business analytics. We address security and compliance. We build portals. Of course, for enterprise content management. We have a staff that has expertise in cloud solutions and, of course, in services. Next slide, please. So, in our business solution practice, there's over 25 people with vast experience working with all the usual suspects in the ECM space, like Documentum, etc. So we are very experienced in all aspects of the complete life cycle of enterprise content management, from the creation, ingesting, building workflows, managing security, etc. So we help corporate legal departments from infrastructure implementations through content management to cloud solutions and application updates. This, in my opinion, is our greatest asset and what distinguishes MicroStrategies from some of the other HP Autonomy partners who work with WorkSite. We understand the broad picture of how corporate legal departments need to work across their organizations, with multiple internal and external constituents, and we can provide the end-to-end solution. This could include your hardware, other ERP systems, portal integrations, networking, DR, high availability. We ensure that your installation is reliable and performant to make sure that your implementation will succeed and your company gets the greatest benefits from using WorkSite. Next slide, please. And as I mentioned, a cloud solution, and that's the hot topic these days, right? So we've got a very strong practice that can guide you through the sometimes confusing world of cloud, and we're happy to help you there as well. Next slide, please. As noted earlier, we work with many different technologies in support of all our customers' requirements, and here are some of the more prevalent ones. So that's it. That's a brief overview of MicroStrategies. Now I'd like to introduce Scott Dumore from HP Autonomy, who will give you a brief overview of Autonomy, the WorkSite Document Management System, and what's new in WorkSite. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rich. Again, my name is Scott Dumore. I'm Director of Technology for Channels and Alliances with HP. And I'll be happy to take you through the slides on WorkSite. So, what we're seeing today is that the world has changed. When we look at information in general, it goes well beyond just documents and email. We've done some quick research, and these numbers that we found here are really pretty staggering. You know, the information that organizations are dealing with now largely is coming not only from internal sources but external sources as well, and this is information that's very relevant to their business. Social networking in particular, instant messages, even things like Google searches are relevant to the information as it applies to our business. And the point is that, you know, every 60 seconds we're seeing an incredible jump in information, to the point that looking into the future, you know, we're moving into the area of you know, yottabytes, and admittedly, I actually had to look up what a yottabyte was, and it's a pretty staggering amount of data. I think it's somewhere around 1 trillion terabytes or something in that area. So the point is that you know, this information is really changing the way that we have to look at technology and how we get our arms around it. So, taking that in mind, what we recognize at HP is we have to break this down into some of the key trends. And on the left side here, these are some of the trends that we've identified. You know, first off, you know, organizations are dealing with all this information, but one of the common threads is that they're having to manage this information in independent silos. You know, the problem is that you've got different departments in an organization. Information lives in different systems. It's used in different ways. And so the challenges that we face, looking at the right-hand side, is how do we connect to these repositories, and how do we recognize the relationships between the data so that we can actually make use of the information and use it to inform better decisions. The second trend that we're seeing that's related to that first slide about the information explosion is the consumerization of IT. And that is, the usage of services and technologies that people are used to as individuals now coming into the workplace. And this certainly covers the mobility realm, mobile devices, as well as social networking, but also cloud-based services and offerings as well, as Rich was saying in his presentation. And we need to be able to accommodate these new models and these new paradigms. So when we look at deploying any technologies, we have to keep this in mind. It has to be in line with these trends that we're seeing, and we need to be able to enable workers to effectively work from anywhere with applications that are as intuitive as they have come to expect, based on the consumerization IT. And at the same time, we need to reduce the cost of deployment. And then finally, the trend that we're seeing is that certainly there is a need for better collaboration, but the irony is at the same time our requirements for compliance and security has gone up. So how do we balance those two? How do we provide this increased collaboration, this increased freedom that's being driven by the consumerization of IT, but at the same time provide this type of compliance and security? And so that is the challenge. Ensuring corporate accountability and compliance. How do we do this, and what technologies do we bring to the table so that we can transparently, provide this type of capability? So these things are top of mind for us at HP as we develop our solutions. So the way we refer to this is ECM without borders. In order to accomplish this, we need to break through these borders that are surrounding this information. And to that end, what we're striving to do is provide a single platform that can not only help manage this information, but actually understand the information from all these different areas in these incredible volumes and from all these different silos. And what we want to be able to provide the end users is, a unified view across all of it. The end users don't care where that information lives. They just want to see a unified view that relates it all together and provides, search capabilities as well as security and governance capabilities over all this information, regardless of where it's at. And of course, we want mobile access. We want to be able to provide the ability to access this information from anywhere, but it's got to have enterprise security, and governance still has to come into play. So we need to be able to accommodate this as part of this strategy. And of course, finally, being able to deliver it in any number of ways, whether it be on-premise, whether it be in the cloud, or whether we have some hybrid deployment where a customer may have some components that are on-premise and some in the cloud, or perhaps a failover system in the cloud. So again, these are the things driving our ECM Without Borders initiative. So when you look at our product suite, that actually the individual products that make up our stable that makes up the entire solution, we cover a number of different areas, and we have to in order to accommodate all of these different trends. Starting at the left-hand side, of course, the ability to capture information via our Teleform product, which allows us to capture hard copy information, convert it to electronic form, and automatically classify it. We need to be able to provide business process automation, workflow tools, and that's what our HP Process Automation solution does for us there. Today we're going to be talking about what I have right in the center here, which is our WorkSite solution for document and email management. And WorkSite really is the centerpiece of our strategy in this area, because it serves as the repository, or one of the repositories that can help tie all this together. And then moving along, when we start looking at enterprise search and knowledge management and the ability to bring analytics to the table across all this information, that's where our intelligent universal search solution for enterprise search capabilities comes into play. And then finally, I mentioned previously the importance of information governance and being able to govern all of this information regardless of where it's at. And that falls into the category of records and policy management and legal hold capabilities. And of course, we have our HP Records Manager product integrated with WorkSite, as well as our control point solution that serves as basically a policy engine across all this content. So again, these are the products that make up this overarching solution across all these areas. So again, what we really want to focus in on today is our WorkSite solution focused on document and email management. But we want to not lose sight of the fact that there are many other components to this strategy. And when we look at our ECM solutions, really we don't want to look at it from the product standpoint. We truly want to look at it from a solution standpoint. And what we have here is a list. Specifically when we start looking at the repository aspect of all of the things that we feel are very important, and then we of course support with WorkSite, as you'll see in the demonstration today. And that goes all the way from the ability to very easily capture metadata when we're filing content, the ability to provide collaborative capabilities around our content and our work in process content, both cloud and on-premise deployment options, being able to integrate into other business processes and applications. And when you look at our product set, that's something that we do very well based on the fact that we can cover all of those different areas within that strategy. And then finally, what this all comes down to is the ability to provide this solution at a reduced cost. And we feel that's what HP's strength is from the standpoint that we can provide the overall comprehensive end-to-end solution in this regard. So to summarize, again, we see, really three trends driving these challenges. Multiple repositories, multiple silos of information, the consumerization of IT from both a mobile standpoint and a cloud-based standpoint. These are things that have to be considered. And then that balance between providing enhanced collaborative capabilities while at the same time meeting our corporate compliance and security requirements. And we solve these challenges by breaking down these borders, providing a solution that crosses all of these areas and connects these repositories and helps understand the content. We want to be able to improve productivity through anywhere, anytime access, meaning whether it be mobile, offline, remote, or any type of access method. And of course, from an information governance standpoint, we specifically are looking to address that balance between collaboration and compliance by providing a transparent information governance layer that can, of course, go across all of these different areas. And electronic content management, clearly, when you look at the product set, is a key component of our information governance portfolio. And that's what you'll be seeing next in the demonstration when we hand off to Rick. So thank you again, and at this point I'll be handing over to Rick Wintle to go through the product demonstration of WorkSite.
Thank you, Scott. Okay. So as Scott said, I'm Rick Wintle. I'm the consulting manager of the HP Autonomy practice at MicroStrategies. And I'd like to introduce you to the front-end program called FileSite, which is used to connect to the WorkSite solution that Scott was just describing. FileSite, I have open on my screen now the Outlook email program, because FileSite integrates right into our inbox tree here on the left-hand side. So you can see down below my inbox where FileSite's listed. I have several options here, such as my document work list. The document work list is a list of 40 documents that I've worked on recently, and as I continue to work on newer documents, older documents get pushed out of the list. And these are configurable options. It can be set to 20, it can be set to 50, whatever you prefer. Then we also have what's called our matter work list, which is made up of we call workspaces, or if you notice these little red weld icons here, workspaces hold the folders that contain all of the documents. But workspaces also contain what we call metadata, or tags on the documents. So this particular workspace that I'm on right now has a particular client number and project associated with it in our system. And then each of the folders can have the same type of metadata associated with them, so that when we choose a document or we save a document into one of these folders that we choose, it'll automatically inherit that metadata, saving us a lot of time in tagging our documents so that later on when we go to search for documents, we can find them a lot quicker. We also have down here at the bottom a My Matters list. So the Matter work list that we talked about is a list of the last 10 workspaces that I've worked on. And just like the document work list, as I work on additional workspaces, the previous workspaces will be pushed out of the list of 10. And again, another configurable option. The My Matters list down here at the bottom is a static list of workspaces that I add workspaces to and take away from myself, not done by the system. So that if I have some workspaces that are my favorite workspaces to work on, or I work on the same project on a regular basis, I'll add those workspaces to the My Matters list so that it's easier for me to find them when I go to save a document. So let me switch over now to Microsoft Word and show you the integration between the Office products and FileSite. Now, each of the Office products, Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, all have the same type of integration for saving back into the document management system. And we also integrate with Adobe so that we can save PDFs back into the system as well. So I have a document up here on the screen that I've been working on, and I haven't saved it yet, but I'm going to go ahead and select File, Save As. And you'll notice that instead of getting a typical Windows Explorer screen, what I get is an option to save this document as a new document in the WorkSite system or a new version of an existing document. And in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and select New Document. And then WorkSite prompts me for the location that I want to store this document. So I'm going to go to the Matter work list, find one of the matters that I've been working on recently, and then I'm going to select the folder that I want to store the document into. And when I do that, notice that that folder's metadata fills in for me automatically, as well as my author is filled in as myself. I'm logged on as a user called Corp Law right now. So really all I need to do is give this a valid document name. And then I can hit the Save button. But I do want to point out before I hit the Save button, if I click on this Detail button here, again, there's a lot more additional information being captured behind the scenes. This particular client number and matter number for the workspace that I've selected, as well as the application type that I'm using, these are all different tags that I can use to find my document later on. So after I save it, if I'm thinking about that news article, and I remember I did it in Word, or I did it particularly for CJ Ventures, I can do searches using the search button, which I'll get to in a minute, and show you how I can locate those documents easily. Okay, so once the document is saved into WorkSite, it gets the document number assigned to it, auto-generated and incremented each time a new document gets placed in the system. It also gets a version number. So notice up at the top of my screen, it says document number 78, version number 1. I'm going to go on and make a few notes on this document and show you how, when I go back now and I want to save the document, now I can save this document as a new version to the existing original document that I created. And WorkSite will prompt me with the screen to say, is all this information accurate and correct? Would I like to put any more comments in about the document? And I'll make a little note here. Now, while I'm going to save this document, the system also has security built into it where I can make this document public for everybody to see. I can make it private for only certain people to see, or I can make it view only where everybody can open it, but they can't edit it. They can just view it. So if I were to make it private, for example, I can click on the Modify button and then be able to select from a list of users or groups that are in WorkSite today that would allow me to secure this document in a certain way so that only certain people can see it in the company. But for now, I'm going to leave it public, and I'm going to go ahead and hit Save. Now you'll notice that Word has updated to document number 78, version 2. And I'm going to go ahead and close out of Word. Come back over to Outlook. And if I go back to my document work list, you can see the 2 versions of the document that I've been working on are at the very top of the list. And any of the older ones that were at the bottom have been pushed out of the bottom of the list. Now, one of the nice things inside of WorkSite and using FileSite is I can right away at the bottom of the screen here see a quick profile view of all of the different metadata tags associated with the document. I can quickly view the document without having to open it into another application or open back into Word. I can see how many versions exist of that document. I can see if this document happens to be related to any other documents in the system in case there might be a package of documents that get put together. And I can also see the history of the document and everything that's happened to it. So there's an audit trail on the documents which tracks every activity: opening, viewing, checking in, checking out, emailing a document, printing a document. Anything that's done to the document, we track it, the time that it happened, who the user was, as well as the application they were using, and sometimes how long they had that document open or checked out. All right, I can also go back over to my Matter work list, and I can take a look at the folder structures here, and I'll see my document is stored here in the Documents folder of this particular workspace. And if I want to work on it, I just double-click on it. Right from within Outlook, it'll launch into Word, and I can go back to editing my document. So that's some of the basics of the document management portion of the system. Next, I'm going to cover the toolbar at the top here, and the first thing I'll cover on the toolbar is the Search Documents button. I spoke a little bit about how easy it is to find the documents once they're placed in the system. HP Autonomy's power in their system comes from the idle indexer that's running in the background, which is extremely powerful and quick at finding results. So if I wanted to do a search for a document, I can type a word for the description of the document and just go ahead and hit OK. And the system will return all the documents with that word in my search query. I could also look for terms inside of a document. So let's say I want to look for the word test in every document in the system, and it'll come back with a list of all the documents that contain the word test. If I click on the View button, I can see it highlights each term throughout the document wherever it finds a reference to it. Also, the tags that I spoke about, if I want to go look for all the documents for a particular client, let's say it's CJ Ventures again, and I hit OK, I can do a search, and here's all the documents related to CJ Ventures. So extremely powerful indexing capabilities, can do all kinds of combinations of look-fors, can do searching against email. I can return all documents, only emails, or I can exclude emails from my searching. I also have a button over here which allows me to search for workspaces, and this works similar in a way that it finds documents. I do a search, and now it finds a workspace that I might want to do some work in, and it adds it automatically to my Matter work list as I double-click on it. All right, so that's some of the features of working with the document management portion and the searching powers and capabilities of WorkSite. Next, I'm going to move on to the rest of the toolbar up here, which is part of the email management functionality. And for starters, you can see I have a couple of emails listed here that I've received, and I haven't filed them yet into WorkSite. And the reason I know they're not filed is they don't have this little green check mark next to them. This symbolizes to me that I've filed this into the system, or somebody else has filed it within our company into the system, because there's an extremely powerful duplicate detection functionality going on behind the scenes, so that when a document or an email comes in and it gets filed, but it's been addressed to multiple people in your company, it will go through everybody's mailboxes and flag that email with the little green check mark, so we know not to go and file it again, and the system would not allow us to file it a second time. This way it cuts down on the number of duplicates stored in the system. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pick one of the emails, and I'm going to select a workspace that I'd like to file this email to, and then I'm going to hit the File button. And what will happen is I'll get a little hourglass on the email, not in Outlook itself. I can continue to go on in Outlook and do any of the other stuff that I want to do, and that little hourglass will process in the background. And this is what I like to refer to as the postman. So I've taken an email, I've walked it out to my mailbox, put the flag up, walked away, figuring that at some point the postman's going to come by. And relatively quickly in the system, this wakes up and processes everybody's email that's waiting to be filed. So within a few minutes, the check mark should show up for me, telling me that the postman has come by, he's picked up the mail out of my mailbox and has taken it on to be filed into WorkSite. And while that's happening, I'm going to go create a new mail message so I can show you how when you're sending an email out to external recipients, you can also file that email into the document management system. So here I'm going to click on the WorkSite logo paperclip button, which allows me to go into the document management system and find a document that I might want to send out to an external recipient. And when I go to send out to an external recipient, I have the choice of sending a copy or a link. Now, in this case, if you're outside of our company and you obviously wouldn't be using WorkSite, so you would need a copy of the document. But for when I send documents internal to the rest of the people in my company that use WorkSite, I can send a link to the document so that I'm not really passing around the document itself all through the email system. I can send a link, and then maybe Rich receives it, and Rich clicks on the link, and it takes him right to the document where it's already stored in the document management system. So for now, I'm going to send a copy of this document, and I'm going to go back up to my filing toolbar at the top. And for this document, I'm going to select CJ Ventures, pick my email folder, and I'm going to go ahead and hit send. Now what's happening here is a third-party add-in product we use called WorkShare, which is just doing metadata scrubbing on the document. And the third-party product sometimes causes me some issues. So I'll go back in, take a look, and you can see, first of all, the email message I had selected earlier, it looks like the postman's come by and picked up my message and has filed it into WorkSite. And then I can also go back and I can check the CJ Ventures folder and see that my email that I just sent out the door to my external recipient has also been stored locally in our system on its way out. So a couple different ways of filing email, one called send and file, the other one selecting the email from your inbox and hitting the filing toolbar, which I like to call file and forget, and let it do its work in the background. And it's also built in so that if you were to select 1,000 emails or more and go to file them, that it'll process in the background just like it did there a few minutes ago, so that you're not held up at all and you can continue to work inside of Outlook. We also have the traditional way, which is to take an email and just drag it down and drop it into an email folder, and it'll go through the same filing process. And another way that we can file emails is by still leveraging the inbox folders that people like to use. And old habits die hard, but if I go ahead and I create an inbox folder here, when I create the folder, WorkSite notices that I'm creating an inbox folder, and it asks me, do I want to link this WorkSite folder, link this inbox folder to a WorkSite folder? And I'm going to go ahead and say yes, because I'd like all messages that I place into this inbox to go into this particular workspace and in this email folder. And I can leave these messages in Outlook after I file them, and I have the choice of filing these messages as private. So in this case, I have my folder over here. I take my email, drag it over to my inbox folder, and within a couple of minutes, this email would go through a synchronization. This folder would go through a synchronization process with the WorkSite folder, and this email would show the green check mark, letting me know that it now is also filed to WorkSite. So several different ways that we can manage email to bring it together with the document so that all of your content is stored in one common location and typically shared among the rest of the users in your company. That's pretty much all the features of WorkSite. One other feature that I would just mention is if I double-click on my control key or double-tap my control key on my keyboard, there is a feature called Express Search. This is almost like a Google-like search. I can type anything I want in here. And as I start to type, the system goes through a search and finds any reference to the word that I had typed in. And then I can go right to that document or email, open it up, and start working on it. Emails stored in the system are all part of the indexing capability. They get indexed. I can open them up, and I can do all the same functions I normally would do with an email, even after it's stored inside a WorkSite. One last thing that I'd like to just point out, when I am sending out these emails and I'm using the filing toolbar here, the system has built into it some logic to suggest locations based on the subject line that you type in. And so it helps you to quickly narrow down which workspace you would like to select when you go to store. So there's a lot of efficiency built into the features around the FileSite program working against the WorkSite system on the back end. And with that, I'd like to turn over the presentation to Frank Sereno of J&J.
No, I work for Johnson & Johnson, and I've been working with WorkSite now for about 10 years. Please excuse me if I switch between different terms of I manage, WorkSite and FileSite, because WorkSite has had a bit of identity crisis over the years. They don't quite know what to call themselves, so right now it's WorkSite, so we'll try to stick with that. We use WorkSite in a variety of ways here at Johnson & Johnson. Primarily, it's used as a place for people to store their personal work product, and that's within the entire law department. That anyone who wants WorkSite can use it to store their emails, their work. We also use it as a system of record in the trademarks area and the litigation areas. In the trademarks area, we have it tied to an intellectual property management system called Memotech, and there's a feed between the two systems that there's a batch job, in this case, that runs every few minutes, and it will bring over any trademark names and client names that are new, and we'll add them into the WorkSite database so that they will be available in the drop-down list for the metadata when you store your documents. And we use it in different ways in different areas. In that, in the trademarks area, we use it in a classic mode, where when you take a document and you drag it into WorkSite, it'll pop up the profile screen and you fill in your metadata. And that's because they want to pick the trademark and the client name each time that they store their document. Yet in attorneys who have used WorkSite before and are familiar with a matter-centric type of mode, where they'll set up the properties in their folders and in their workspaces, so that when they drag an email into a folder, they're dragging it directly to a particular folder name that has, like, say, the client name or a particular thing that they're working on, and so it automatically gets filed with the metadata for that particular folder, so they don't have to pick it each time they go to drag something in. And that's just because WorkSite is flexible, that it could be used in both ways. In the trademarks area, all the documents that are related to a trademark, all the emails that come in, all of the certificates, all of the different documents that come in related to it, get stored there. So that's why I'm calling it a system of record in that circumstance. And in litigation, we do the same thing. In litigation, we have it directly tied to a Team Connect system, and there, the primary point of access is a web interface, and it's the iManage web interface, and so users will get a URL link to the document. They click on that URL, it'll bring up the WorkSite web results set, and it'll do an automatic search depending upon the type of URL that you pass. Let's say the Team Connect application will substitute the matter name and the client name in the URL, so that when it goes to pull up the iManage web screen, it will show the documents related to that matter. And in the trademarks area, it doesn't work quite that way, but they know everyone uses it as their system, so it's all in their Outlook and their Word and other areas that they need to work with documents, so they know to just go to Outlook and look for the documents there. So you could use it in a variety of ways. Let's see here. Now we have currently about 180 WorkSite Outlook client users. These are people that use it either for trademarks, litigation, patents, corporate law, regulatory areas within the legal department, and we even have some users that are IT users like myself and some people in my group where we have our own database. And so we have multiple databases for these different areas so that we can control security, and iManage is very flexible with the security, so you could have, we have multiple databases within this one system, so they all, I support all of these databases, and yet they each have their own configuration, their own users, their own security models around them. And then we have about 100 users of the web interface, which would be all the users of the Team Connect matter management system, and they will access it primarily through the web interface. Now, it's been very slow go here at Johnson & Johnson, bringing people within the law department on board with WorkSite. And it's because it's never been a required document management system. It's an optional tool that people can use if they wish to use it. And so in the early years, it was just very slow. Only the people, like, say, coming from outside law firms and attorneys that were used to using it there would ask for it, and they get right on board and start using it. And then there'd be people who never used it before, and they just would shun it and not want to use it. But, we've been growing very quickly in its usage, and it's just the number of documents that we have been putting in the system has been growing exponentially recently. Just say 2 years ago, we were probably only at 250,000 documents, and today we're at 3.5 million documents. And so, like, every year it's doubled, and the number of users has grown substantially. Like, I've been adding a whole bunch of users recently, and this year, 30 or 40 or more users decided to start using it for the first time. And so what's happening with why people are starting to use it more is that there's two reasons. One is that the file room that we have here in J&J is going away. We used to have these, like, rolling filing cabinets that would store lots of paper files, and then we would also have a lot of documents which we would have off-site at Iron Mountain. But what's happening is that we're taking rid of a lot of this paper, and we're taking or scanning all these documents, and we're getting them, moving them into iManage. And so right now it's just, many thousands of documents are coming in daily as people are these scans documents are getting completed, and they're moving them in, trying to get the file room closed down. So that's a big growth of iManage, and also just the personal usage of iManage for just people's daily work use of storing their emails has increased, because what's also happened is a change in policy here at Johnson & Johnson, where before people would almost be able to keep email indefinitely in their inboxes, and they just would request more space, and they would just keep growing their inboxes. But what's happened is that now, after a year, all email that's older than a year gets pushed automatically into this archive area. And while it's still there for them to use it, it's much slower than an Outlook mail is, and it's much slower than WorkSite is. Now, Outlook mailboxes are faster than WorkSite mailboxes, just from the nature that, it's just a more direct type of transfer to an Outlook mailbox. In WorkSite, it's just a bit slower than that. But the archive folders in Outlook are very slow, and so people are realizing that WorkSite is faster, and they're starting to move their documents into WorkSite as well. And so that's been a big growth, and people are realizing that they can search now, and search with full text search, and so more and more people are using it. It'll probably be a few more years, I think, at this rate that we're going, where eventually we'll be at the number of people that we would have, that we could probably force a mandate that everybody starts to use it. But right now, management hasn't been prepared to make that commitment to everyone using it. Now, because we've been growing so rapidly, we've been looking at different ways that to increase our storage of our file space. And so we're starting to look at the Amazon virtual private cloud environment. And so I'm just starting to research that to see what that's all about, and see if I could move and get an additional file server that would be that I could grow on demand, increase the space as I need it, without having to rely on a complete IT department. That's part of the problem with working in a big corporation, is that you're really removed from the people that are helping you in your circumstances. Like, the IT department most of the people are in India, and you don't know most of these people, and so having the virtual private cloud will hopefully make that easier for me to maintain and grow the system. And eventually, I'd like to move everything into that environment. And so, again, I support the system all on my own. Of course, I have the help of HP and MicroStrategies. I couldn't do it without them. The HP Service Help Desk is there. I call them up, during business hours. I can get anybody on the phone. I know a lot of the people by name there. They'll answer my day-to-day type of questions about how to use the system and how to help users if there's a problem. And the people from MicroStrategies, they're there, and they help me a lot for my project work. When I have to upgrade the software, when I have to switch servers, when I have to do things that are a bit more complex that I don't do every day. Rick and his people there, they work with the software every day, so they are able to help me, and I have a good working relationship with them. I know the people at HP and MicroStrategies better than I do my own J&J people that manage my servers. So I really appreciate their help in helping me do all of this. That gives at least some time to have some questions, if anybody has any questions.
Well, thank you very much, Frank. Then, ladies and gentlemen, yes, as announced, we'd like to move right into the Q&A portion of this webinar. And actually, Frank, we do have a few questions for you right off the bat. Did you see any additional unexpected benefits by implementing WorkSite at Johnson & Johnson?
Well, it's just come in handy recently when we're divesting some companies, and we have to do document pulls out of the system to get information to pass on to the new owners. And so, I basically can do the full text search if I need to, search on certain things. We have the metadata searches, which will pull up the documents, and then the documents are there. The paths to the documents are in the database, so you could write queries to get the list of documents that you need, and then you could kind of export the documents out pretty easily. So I use that and appreciate that. and the users are really starting to make use of the full text search, and so people will be like, they'll ask for the tool that allows them to do full text search rather than asking for file site or work site. So that's what people are looking for now.
And following along with that, what was your experience then with third-party integration into your matter management system with WorkSite?
Well, I touched upon some of that earlier, which was with the litigation system and the trademark system. It's pretty straightforward. There's these tools that allow you to create these batch jobs, which you configure, which come right with the product. And then with the litigation system, we actually have database-to-database triggers that fire. So I have my iManage system in a SQL Server, and so is the Team Connect system. And so because it's on the same infrastructure, you can communicate from database to database. So there's these triggers that fire in the litigation database that whenever a matter is added, they would automatically update the iManage server, the iManage SQL Server. And so it's very straightforward. It's very standard type of transfers of information, so it's very easy.
Oh, excellent. And as a final question, could you describe how long a typical implementation would take?
It's hard to say. My implementation was already in place. I took it over, and so it's really depending upon how much work you put in up front. And I suggest that people do the work up front because one of the problems that we've had here at J&J is the lack of buy-in from senior management in setting up the system and having the system be a required place where you store your documents. And so if you do the work up front to set up your metadata, set up your things, it can take a little bit of time to do, but it'll be rewarded over time by you're not having to have documents misfiled, and it's kind of hard to put a price on that, the upfront work versus clean documentation. I think I'd rather do the upfront work.
Okay, excellent. And we'd like to then go on ahead and move on to our summary.
All right, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? This is Rich.
Yes, we're good to go, Rich.
Okay, so I'd like to follow up on that last question a little bit too. It's more of a sort of a deployment question. We find typically it only takes a few weeks from design configuration for most of our implementations. All right, so in summary, first of all, thank you very much, Frank. That was great. Really appreciate that. And hopefully the rest of you have gotten a good overview of the powerful capabilities of the WorkSite Document Management System from Scott, Rick, and Frank. A couple of key takeaways, I think, especially from Frank, and we found in our experience as well, is that to ensure the greatest user adoption, it's important that you involve your users early from the start. And also make sure your executives are on board to help drive that user adoption across your organization so you get the greatest value from your investment. And the good news is that both MicroStrategies and HP Autonomy have a lot of experience with this. We can help you build your business case for the management team, as well as assist you in training your end users to make sure that you get the greatest value. So thank you very much. I don't think that's about it. That's all we have for today. This webinar will be recorded. It is recorded and will be up on the MicroStrategies website. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, please contact us via the phone number and email address you see up on your screen. Thank you all very much.
All right. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us today for HP Autonomy WorkSite Webinar. This event has now come to an end. Thank you again very much, and have a wonderful day.